Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of I Eat So Bloom, a place where growth gets real, healing isn't linear, and emotional intelligence takes center stage. My name is Reyes. They say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I got the squad with me. I'd like to introduce Mr. Chris Classic.
What up, what up?
Mr. Jermail Shelton.
What's up?
Dr. Curtis Jasper.
Yep.
And we have an extremely special, our very first female guest.
Yep.
Clap it up for Jessica Ross.
Yep.
Jessica from Jam Good Living.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Jam Good Living real quick, sis.
Gotcha. Well, first, thank you so much for inviting me into your space. Jam Good Living is a health and wellness company that supports people, individuals, and businesses in really creating community, confidently sharing their story, and building brands that last.
Awesome. Now, today's conversation is going to be the self-control mindset. Now, you chose that. Like, I gave you a list of topics. You said I wanted to talk about that one, so I know you're going to cook. But before we even get into that, I want to really, frame for the world who you are to us. Because people don't know this. Like, there's champions that you have in this world, right? And it's important that you lean towards where your growth gets emboldened and amplified. Now, when I say this, me and Jermail will be at the gathering spot. Me, Jermail, and Sid, whenever she sees any of us talking, she comes up with the energy like, I know you guys are changing the world. Takes out the camera. We got to document this. Clock. We got to make sure the world knows about this. And
Love that.
That energy is always it reignites our enthusiasm for the day. Mm-hmm. It's like an extra, like an amplifier. Yeah. And aside from that, we did have an exchange that I'm going to let Jermail tell us about at the gathering spot when we decided that you were going to be our first female guest.
Yeah, so Jess, Mario, and I, we were sitting at the gathering spot. Shout out to Ryan and TK.
Always.
And we were having a dialogue or conversation about when, I'll speak for myself, sometimes in my relationship, there's been times when I've given my wife an idea or suggestion, and I feel that sometimes those ideas or suggestions aren't heard from me. But if a friend of hers or someone else kind of brings that up, sometimes she'd be like, oh, that's a good idea. And she'll come back to me and be like, oh my God, I got this brilliant idea.
Why you laughing, Chris?
Why do you think about this?
It's crazy. It's crazy because that's never happened in my relationship or his relationship.
Hold on. Let that man cook.
I appreciate it. And so sometimes, and I admit that my ego may play a part in that sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, damn, why didn't you run with it when I said it? Why did you wait for someone else to kind of co-sign that? Mm-hmm. And in this instance, we were talking to Jess about it, and Jess really gave me another perspective. Essentially, she was like, sometimes you are the seeds, and sometimes somebody needs to come behind you and water the seeds that you've planted in your wife. And I took away from that, I didn't think about it from that point of view. So it really gave me another perspective of how to look at that situation. And I know in talking to a lot of brothers that I'm not the only one that experienced that. Mm-hmm. And so maybe this can give other brothers who are listening to this podcast another perspective on how to look at those situations when it comes to your wife.
Okay, so you plant the seed, somebody else waters, and bloom. We happy we get the flower, right?
Indeed.
And it's crazy because I never looked at it like, if I take my ego out of it and stop caring about being the reason,
right?
Like, do I need an award? Do I need a sticker? Good job, buddy. Like, you know what I mean? When I take that part out and I'm just happy with the result, a lot more growing can happen. So self-control mindset and that being the backdrop. Can you break down a little bit more about why your mindset is the way that it is?
Yes. Well, speaking to the idea that someone can begin the process of thought for you, and as a husband and a man to a woman, a lot of the times you are going to be the person who kind of shakes up the ground to even get a seed ready. So it could have been like the 9th time you said something that actually is now a seed, versus the first 8 times were, the ground getting soft enough. You actually putting a hole in the ground so that there can be a seed and depth for that seed to actually catch root and grow. And in that frame, it's understanding that in everything, it's all about you. And that means when you're trying to give somebody the end result that you think they should have or advice that they should have, what's in it for you could be like the end result of them having that thing that you think that they could have, having that wisdom that they can have. But if you make it about your acknowledgement, it's not really about the end result. It's about you in the end result. And the self-control mindset around that is, I used the 4 agreements from the book, 4 Agreements, and one of them is don't take anything personally, right? Now, stuff in a don't frame doesn't really work with my brain. I need to flip it around and be the affirmative. And so what I've done is said, take everything personally, meaning that anything I'm saying is about me, anything you're saying is about you. That's how I take it personally, which means that if somebody's giving me advice, they may have personal reasons in terms of you love me. That's a good personal reason, but it still would have a frame of how you see things, a frame of where you're coming from. Even your history or your experience would come into play. But if I take it personally as in, okay, that's where he's coming from, that's what he sees, and then I can try to think, okay, well, what in this can help me? What in this can open me up? And sometimes it's like, okay, that's a thought I've never thought about before, and that can be it.
Yeah, that's good.
And then he'll say something like, that is that thought, that same thought, and now there's water to that seed. And then you'll say something, and it's like, oh my goodness, now I see something from the ground coming up. So it could be that, yes.
I think the narcissist in me oftentimes makes other people's opinion, like you said, what you say is about you, what I say is about me. The narcissist in me makes me feel like what they say is also about me. Like it may be absent of any ill intent. It may be they had a bad day. It may be anything else that required that was just absent of me. But I took I took it personally, and now there's beef. But only one person knows there's beefing.
I think in those situations, we have to be mindful that the people that we're talking to or who's talking to us, they only know a very, very small part of who we are. So they're only looking at it from that point of view, right? And so if we remove our ego, or the I won't call you a narcissist, but
Self-proclaimed.
self-proclaimed. It's removing the idea that they know the full picture, right? You just know 5% of 100% of who I am.
Or what I was thinking is sometimes if it's coming from a spouse, they know you really well. And so I'll just speak from my perspective. If I'm asking my wife about a business idea, something that is about the public and me, I may ask a question that I'm looking for a public perspective answer on. She's giving me an answer as my wife, the person I'm laying next to, who knows insecurities, secrets, thoughts, past experiences, right? And so I'm like, nah, that's not what they'll think. Then I'll go ask someone from the outside.
Yeah, sometimes
And they'll
it's
say
not
the same thing. And then I'm like, oh, okay, she was right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it works in reverse. It can work for either, someone who knows you very well, almost too well, right? Because then they're saying something and you're like, nah, that's not it. You doubt it. And then you ask someone from the outside, if they say the same thing, it seems like, oh, so when I said it, it wasn't good enough. Nah, I just thought you knew me a little too well. And so I was looking for more of an outside perspective. Once that's confirmed, that's when it's like, oh, shit.
And at that
Do
point,
you acknowledge when she's right?
Yes, but at the same time, that specific thing hasn't happened so much that I can say that there's a history of it. I feel like it's happened once or twice, both ways. It's happened from my perspective, creating a suggestion or offering a suggestion, and it's happened her offering a suggestion. So you know, and it's also how things are framed. Somebody, like a woman's voice is so powerful for a man or a woman. A woman's voice is the first voice that every human hears. And so sometimes when you hear a woman suggest something to you, a lot of times we don't understand the power of it. A lot of times they don't understand the power of it. You could put on something and your wife says, "Oh, you look nice today, honey." And you're like, "Thanks, babe." Keep it moving, no big deal. You're not even think about it. Let a stranger, let an older black woman tell you, "You look so handsome today, honey." You cheesing.
Theme music.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I was in a Chick-fil-A drive-thru the other day, and I come around the corner to the drive-thru part, roll down the window. Young lady had to be my son's age. You know, she was like, "Okay, salt and pepper," and it was just like, in that moment, I couldn't help but like cheese, like, you know what I'm saying? You know, and it wasn't a big deal. I didn't even see it as flirtatious. It was, especially that type of acknowledgement, it was more of an age, you know, kind of thing. But it was just like, I felt good.
Yeah.
It didn't, you know, if y'all said it, it wouldn't have been like, you got the same shit. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we have to put more respect on a woman's voice and the power of a woman's voice to our subconscious.
That's so real.
It sounds like we're so used to saying like the term "put respect on my name," and I hear you saying we need to put respect on the voice.
Yeah, it's power behind it, which is why certain things that they say when negative can have a crippling effect.
Even more. Yes, absolutely.
Ms. Jessica?
I think the interesting thing about the self-aware space or the self-responsible space and the mindset of understanding that our mind creates everything, if that's the foundation, yes, even what someone else can say has something to do with you, but it's only in relationship to how you react or interact with that saying. So if I say something to you, it is coming from my personal perspective because I would only have my perspective to speak from. So that's why it's personal. But I'll say something to you and then you'll take whatever I'm saying and now then personally decide this is a compliment, this is a dig, this is a empowerment, this is a diminishment. Like that's where taking what other people say has the responsibility on you on how you receive it personally and then how you respond to it personally.
I got a question for you. Well, from a relationship perspective, how do you listen and receive and develop the mindset to do so when you feel as if you aren't being heard? Like, how do you find the self-control to listen when you feel like your point is so poignant?
This is one of the things that I had to mature into. Like I just spoke before the podcast started. I'm celebrating 9 years with my husband.
Hey, let's go, Black Love.
Yeah, man.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, he is a black man. And
I met him.
Right. That's good. For the audience, yeah, he is definitely that. And the idea of trying to hear somebody when they might not be speaking to what you've just said was one of the hardest things in terms of communication. Because if I'm telling you I have this issue or this problem, and then you're speaking to me about something that I now have no way of trying to relate it to the problem that I said and I'm bringing it to you, that is where frustration happens within me because I'm like, but that's not what I'm talking about. And he's like, but that's not what you're seeing. So what I've had to learn in situations like that is to take my space to breathe. So I can be in conversations with you and I have to say, here, right here. So here can be I'm here. Here can be I hear. Here can be where are we now? We're here in this space. And then after hearing we're here in this space, I then look at my husband, who's my husband. I'm like, okay, well, we're on the same team.
Right.
We want the same things. Usually we're having conversations either about my son or our livelihood or something in relationship to a thing we're doing together. So I'm having to, after I've gotten present and self-responsible, because my emotions are my fault. So if I'm getting frustrated, that means there's something in me doing this.
Right.
Nothing he's doing, but something in me is doing that. So I have to calm that, be present, and then take what he says, and then again, it's on me to hear it as a diminishment or hear it as a compliment or hear it as something that's lifting me up. And then because he's my husband, I give him the benefit of he's trying to support me because we're on the same team.
Yeah.
He wants to win. So this is a supportive statement for winning. How can I hear it? How can I see the win in it? And one of the things that I think I'm really good at is finding the silver lining. I dance in the silver lining. That's one of the things I do. So even in an argument, we'll bust out laughing because I'll do something silly to ground myself. To embrace the ice. Yeah. It gets me out of this because, I can't be doing this and laughing at the same time.
I feel like there's like a huge vulnerability in recognizing that this is all happening inside and being able to take accountability for the fact that I may be responding, my body is responding in a fight or flight kind of way, and that does not warrant the actual scenario going on.
That part. It's like I'm reacting to something that has happened in my childhood that I still haven't healed, that my daddy did to me that one time that I never explained to myself well enough to be okay with it. But it's not you, but it's me.
Those are the triggers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And it could be something so random.
So can I ask some advice for our female audience? How can you get to a point in which you acknowledge and recognize and take stock and accountability for that without feeling as if it's a shot? You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times we look at people in relationships may look at taking accountability means I'm now flawed, so this will be used against me or something like that. Well,
that has like a lot of different layers, because if you feel like it could be taken against you, that means you feel unsafe in your relationship. Like you, and that could mean internally you feel insecure in the relationship that you have with yourself. So to back up, every relationship we have is a vibration or reverberation of the relationship we have with self. And so the place that I would recommend us ladies stand in is the space that we're important enough to own this relationship with self. And in owning this relationship with self, how we feel is valid. It doesn't need to be validated. So if someone doesn't validate it, that's sometimes where the tension comes in. We don't have to feel that, because our feelings are valid enough. Now, if we need to take moments to express ourselves, take the moment, communicate that. If we need to be in a different environment, I will shimmy down in a second if I'm feeling uncomfortable. And I'm talking like literally. Shake it off like a dog or whatever, just because I understand that energy is everything. We all are energy. And if I am taking control of the energy I'm bringing into a situation, the energy I'm taking away from the situation, the energy I sit in within the situation, it all comes from the relationship that I have with myself. I have to be able to feel me. You have to be able to feel you. That means you need to know yourself enough. That means you need to sit in silence enough to know what you're saying to yourself, to know what the divine, because God is within you, has said to you. And one of the things that I love to use is like, our emotions are almost like a gas gauge. You know, in the car when we're driving, the gas tells us if we're full or empty. Our emotions are telling us, are we lying in the promise? Are we running away from it? So, and what I mean by promise is I totally believe, and this is the reason why Jam Good Living is my whole business and platform. God has promised us good. So our base and our nature is good, which means our feeling tone naturally amidst everything is good. So if we're ever feeling anything other than that, that means we are thinking things that are pulling us away from the truth that all is good. And so at any time we're in these emotional spaces, lady, we got to remember the feeling of good is a choice. It's an understanding, and it's a thing that we can decide. Now, it takes muscle. Just like you can't go to the gym and pick up a 100-pound weight and start walking it with the farmer walks instantly. That's something we're going to have to build up to. But that could be going to therapy. That could be having a girls group where y'all actually sit and talk about stuff and not other people. You know, that could be where
whoa. Roll that back.
Rewind selector.
Been through that, right.
Yeah, but that's like, it has to be a self thing. So the advice I would give is, you are important enough to pay attention to yourselves. And when you pay attention to yourselves, any moment that you meet it with all of you. And when you're meeting with your partner, you will then be able to give them the space to be all of them without it having to affect you, without it having to mean that what you said is invalid or what you said is not what it is. It gives you the space to be you in this and them in this, and then you find that common ground that you all want because y'all are married, or because you like each other, or because you're working on a project together, or anything like that.
Yeah, that's big. That's big, and I say it's big because it isn't reliant on a relationship. Because you said something about, you know, how you and your husband are able to kind of laugh at the situation and then take accountability for the fact that you guys are on the same team, right? So that's an established thing. In situations where people are courting, and maybe it's a little more involved than courting, but not quite marriage, that part, that feeling of we're on the same team isn't quite established yet. And so I think your suggestions are so valuable, because it's for any relationship that could be between a man and woman, whether it be work, whether it be a project creatively, whether it be someone you're dating. You're taking accountability for how you feel and the validation of your own feelings, and it isn't up to the other person to validate them for you. Control of self.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And that's where that mirror work comes in at, knowing yourself, right? Going through therapy, recognizing my triggers and how it impacts my relationship, and how sometimes my wife and I, we may have arguments, and when I look back on it, it's like, oh, I'm not really upset with my wife. This is a feeling that came from when I was 12 years old in the environment I lived in, or the household I lived in. But if you're not willing to do the important work of therapy, that you can go inside of cycles where you're always blaming someone else. It's always someone else's fault, and it's really you not recognizing your own triggers in this situation.
Gotcha. I want to dive into my
Your statistics?
well, he said
Stats?
his bag, right? So that being said, one of the things that we noticed is that 10% more females than males are capable of choosing delayed rewards, indicating a slight advantage in delaying gratification. Meaning men are typically more impulsive to go after what will give them gratification now versus later. I think that is representative when we think about relationships.
Yeah.
Women are typically more willing to get into a relationship than a man. And one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting is that, it says here that men tend to make more impulsive choices for tangible rewards versus women with hypothetical rewards. So I'm going to ask you, how would you apply that in the real world? Because I have some ideas of my own.
Well, one, I wanted to double down on the idea of it's all your fault, all you're doing. Everything in this life is all your fault and all you're doing. In terms of you and how you see everything, it comes to the perspectives that you have. So that is
what you believe is the truth will be your truth.
It is. Because either you say you can or you can't. Either way, you're right, because it's you saying it and you write the life, everything like that. But when it comes to the delayed gratification in a non-tangible way, I would say this. Most people, if I tell you the stats of my husband when I first met him, I was 21 years old. I had graduated from college. He still had one more semester. He was working like a regular job or whatever for some tech company. He's a software engineer. But I got with him, he was maybe making $30-something thousand a year. I was free-spirited, just graduated. I wanted to do nothing but become an entrepreneur. And I was able to partner with him, and actually he has sustained our lives for the last 14 years. But he started off, in a role where, you know, I was encouraging him. Yeah, you can negotiate for a little more. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, we're moving from this job. Verizon now bought your company. Okay, now you can move up. We went from doing that kind of company to now we get into the gaming kind of company. You're doing this. All right, well, you know, if they say they have that much, they probably got 10 to 20,000 more. How about you just ask for a little bit more? Ask for like $10,000 more. Boom, he gets it. Okay, cool. Now we are operating in these new spaces. But the non-tangibility is he didn't start off in the 1% like he is now.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm living a cushy life that 14 years later.
You're able to reap the reward.
Oh yeah, what? I am homeschooling my son. He goes to a private school 2 days a week, which means I get to go to the gathering spot, hang out with y'all, you know, and you know, that kind of stuff 2 days a week. And we're getting to travel, we're getting to do all those things. But if I were to look at him as needing to have all of these things when I first met him,
That's good.
Yeah.
then
Especially nowadays.
oh what like, because that's what they're looking for. And I'm like, one,
Who are they?
You're right, that's what women who don't necessarily have the comprehension of how hard it is to be a top 1% earner. And they think it's high value in the sense of like, that's the goal. Now, don't get me wrong. Go where you're economically safe. I'm not even about to shoot at it's hard out here in these economic streets. If you could partner with somebody else who can make money and who will do it on a regular basis, meaning they will hold down a job, like, go. And have fun, you know, because that's better than, you know, trying to rough it out with somebody who's like has aspirations but no effort, no work towards it. So I think being able to see forward with vision and understand that the habits of a person aren't normally the things that'll change. Maybe the environment, maybe the space they're in, but the habits of a person can show you the type of person that they'll end up being. And so I think women looking at the habits of a man versus just the outcome of a man or where he's at. Because, like, when I met him, he was living in the basement of his mother's home. Now, mind you, he did that to move back because his brother was in an accident, fell off a 3rd-story building, like, broke his back. It was
alive?
Yeah, he's alive.
Oh, God
He's
bless.
Kaman Sharif. He's a famous artist. And, like, but life circumstances, if I just looked at this dude living in his basement of his mama's house, he's 5 years into college, you know, like all those things, if I were to get the stats confused with the human, with the person.
It's almost like when you look at like
And the
a
stats
stock.
confused with the human. Wow, that's a powerful bar right there.
Oh yeah, well, because we can look at a person as the human, the hue of man, which is how I like to see it, because we are not a monolith. We are definitely a spectrum. But if I can look at the hue of man and see his habits, how he treats his mama, how he treats his family, who he is in his family. Because honestly, like, if you're not with the guy who's the one that people call for money, you're not with the person who has the wisest decisions in his family about money. Like, just straight up and down. So
man.
looking at some of those things as a part of your
the way to look. That's
decision
real.
making. I mean, now, that's for economic security. Now, another part of security that me and my husband have had to grow to together is emotional security.
Yeah.
But like, I met a 21-year-old man who was still in college. So there was not the emotional maturity of a 35-year-old man who understands. But again, if I were just to look at, does he have all those skills now? No. But
Again, like I keep relating this back to like a stock. Like, you know, you could look at a stock and where they're currently at. All right, it's at $50. Like, I had Amazon stock in 2004.
nice.
Amazon was a bookstore. But if you understand the culture of that company, you understand the potential growth of that company, where they're starting to invest, their strategies, their business practices. I wish I'd have been able to see that it was going to peak at $300, $400 from back then, right? So you were able to approach your relationship like that. And I'm so glad that you're able to address this from a self-control mindset, because when we kind of think about self-control mindset, we think about impulsivity. You know, even when I started doing like the research on how to approach this conversation, everything came about impulsivity, and we kind of like go back to men being more impulsive than women. So did you see in him that he didn't have that, or was he able to be less impulsive for you based on your perspective?
And then my other question I would add on to that is, where did your mindset come in at, right? Because we're talking about self-control, but a lot of what we're talking about in this conversation is emotional intelligence. So how did you derive at where you are today with your emotional intelligence?
Okay. Great conversation starters. I love this. When it comes to the things that I saw in my husband, what I saw was his concern for his family. And so if you can be others concerned as a man, that means that you have done enough to see the importance in the others that make you a man. Wow. And so seeing that he understood the village mentality. Now, don't get me wrong, he had like a F you to everybody else kind of mentality, and that's something I had to deal with because the whole world's my family, you know, so I'm still having to work on the balance of that. But I did see his understanding that he was a part of a whole. So any decision that he made would benefit or be to the detriment of the community that he comes from. I also saw the idea that he is in college. Like, he is pursuing higher education. He was going towards a career that had a forever thing. And he'll say he did it because of this financial stability. And in his lifestyle and lifetime, he didn't come up with a whole lot of financial stability. So I'm now hearing somebody who's taken stock of how he's grown up and made decisions so that he would live differently for his lifetime and for his family lifetime. So I'm seeing now he's a visionary. He has some vision for his life. In terms of the mindset that I had to get to in order to understand this, I followed my husband, which is one of the things that as a woman is a sacrifice. I did not concentrate on my whole life. I went where he went. We moved to Alabama, then we moved to California because he had jobs, and I went to go support him. Now, that's not necessarily always the most popular thing because you're now dependent on this person, but I chose correctly, and I could trust him to depend on. But when I went out to California, I realized I had got everything. I got my college degree. I got my husband. I had a son first. You know, all the things that we're supposed to check off. And I was miserable, like sad. I was in California 15 minutes away from the beach, and I was upset. And it really showed
It's really hard
me,
to be sad by water.
boy, it's so sad to be hard by water, but I was determined to be sad, and that really messed with my mind.
I was determined to be sad.
I was, because I was looking at what I didn't have. My parents weren't close. I was out there by myself. I didn't have friends. Like, I was looking at, I mean, and he was at the time.
There's a lot of friendly people in California.
Maybe. When you were in a culture shock from the south to the west, boy, it takes me a while. Like, they didn't look me in the eye. Like, I'm not a here. Like, just a lot of different things. And I was pregnant, so I also had all those hormones. And my husband was working like 16 hours a day, so there was a lot.
Yeah.
But what I decided was, God has promised me such a good life that I must be thinking incorrectly for me to feel this way and to be in this good of life. Like, you see how all those things had me inside doing this. And I had to rectify that. And I made a decision, and that's when I decided I was going to be jam good. Like, all of life was just going to be jam good. My government name was Jessica Elena McPhail at birth. So Jam, my nickname, good. I've decided it's going to be good for me because God has promised me good life and dominion over this plane. And the mindset took a time, like years to like concrete. You said my energy is consistent. Yes, because I practiced it. I got up every morning before everybody in my house. I'd either go on a walk, like for a couple miles, or I would drive myself to the beach. I actually bought me a wetsuit, bought me a surfboard, did not know what to do, but I would show up so I could see the sunrise, and then I watch those white people out there surfing, and I just copy what they did. And I would have to overcome my fear. I'd have to pray with God. I had to figure out what buoyancy was. Now, that is one of those things that taught me about mindset. Like, I can have a buoyant mind that no matter what happens, no matter the waves, because I understand that God is underneath me, I can float.
Jesus.
You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, it took time, but I have compounded all these understandings so that now my present place is always here and good. It's always here and right. It's always here, and anything I get brought, like anything that gets brought to me, if I'm coming with my goodness, it's only meeting me with my goodness. And if I'm meeting it with any of my insecurities, that's when things have cracks and holes, and that's when I got to go back into my own world, figure out what this is, calm it down, get into whatever rhythm is happening because divine is within.
Bars.
And I know I'm born to win.
Bars.
Bars.
This is a 5-star album.
Bars.
That buoyancy, because God's underneath me, that's gonna stay with me the rest of my life.
And you may use it in a poem.
He was gonna use it anyway.
Oh my God. Did you have another question? I feel like you did. I saw you.
I was gonna ask when emotions run high now, right? With the emotional intelligence that not only you but your husband have, how do you all resolve that inside the household right now? Because I know everything is good, but we live in reality, right? Sometimes we have bad days. How do you conquer those? How does the family conquer those as a whole?
Communication. We talk to each other. You know, it's 100% how we are showing up in the present moment. Because there are times when we just aren't getting it. You know, it's like he's coming from wherever he's in his state of mind, or I've been, out all day and I'm wherever I'm at. And it's one of those moments where I'm just like, I don't have it, but give me 10 minutes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or, I'm gonna go to the basement real quick, play these video games, and this is him, and I'll be up at like 9. You know what I'm saying? Like we
You don't
give
play
each
video
other.
games?
I do, but he plays video games. Oh yeah. Oh, my husband was ranked 1 in WoW in the whole world.
Wow.
In like it's a specific fighter thing, so it's like but he was ranked 1 in the world in WoW. I am married to the king of the nerds.
Wow.
That's dope.
That's dope.
I love it for him because he's
happy.
Yes, and also ladies, finding somebody who can dedicate enough time to be good at anything means that they know how to dedicate their time to be good at anything.
Even if it's not the thing that you want him to be good at.
That part, because like why would I choose WoW? Like of all the things, like WoW. But no, he was so interested in it that he got so good that he was ranked 1 in the world, which means that he has stayability. That means he has ambition. That means he's better than most. You know what I'm saying?
I will say, he's a software engineer, or was at that.
No, he is. He's a software engineer. So
it was linked somewhat to his field.
I mean, he's a computer. Yes, he's a PC gamer.
I would
that
say
kind of thing.
That I believe, and I'm making an assumption here, or trying to make it make sense to me, right? It was affiliated with his craft and his career, not the husband or fiance or boyfriend who is playing Madden,
The gamer.
right?
Well, see,
For 6 hours a day, and it has nothing to do with their career, and it isn't improving anything in the relationship or the house or their personal life.
Now, that's interesting that you challenge that, because when I first met him, it was that.
Got it.
And I took refuge in the fact that he'd sit on the computer for a couple hours. I could just sit on the bed for a couple hours.
Gotcha.
And like be in my own little world, dreaming about all the things I'm doing now.
Right,
Like there was some of that.
Children at that time?
No.
Okay.
I mean, and we've been together 14 years. My son is 8.
Okay,
so
got
we've
it.
had some time where it was just us.
Okay.
And literally sitting in his mama's basement.
Right.
Masina, we love you.
Right.
Amazing. Aman, his dad, we love him. Like, I ran away to his family. That was my solace.
That's dope.
And I love him. And the idea of a safe place, because I was in trauma. I was running away from something. So I wasn't responding in love.
Yeah.
I was responding out of fear. I wanted to go somewhere where I could feel safe. And the beautiful thing about it is he also was running towards something he could feel safe in, because his family dynamic and things of that nature, my energy now met him with some security. So understanding where you are when you meet somebody allows for you to help each other grow along the way, because you're going to change.
Right.
But if you can acknowledge, like, hey, we were in this, at this way, thinking this way, but now I'm feeling this way. I kind of need these things, and I'm liking these things. Like, that's the communication and the growth with somebody else, because, like, I'm going to be consistently within self. Right. He's going to be consistently within self. If we love each other enough, we bring our full selves to bear and only expect the best of the other person to be here, not the best of what I think you should do for me, just the best of the other person. And then we meet each other there.
You have such a great sense of awareness. When you mention, if you don't mind me asking, you just mentioned that you were running away from something during that era. At that time, did you recognize you were running away, or was it after the fact, when you look back on your life, that you realized, oh, in that moment I was running away from something?
I think there was always some inner seeking for safety. I grew up in a wonderful household. Gerald and Althea McPhail are my parents. Dr. Althea McPhail, Gerald McPhail of McPhail Studios. They are amazing people, and they raised me as best they could. And that's one of the things that I think is like, if you can, as a parent, say, I did the best I can, boom, you're winning.
Right.
Because who knows who needs, you're just doing this. And now, as a mom, I'm like, oh, you weren't grown at all. You just been here. I was in a household that didn't necessarily feel safe because I was not validated there. It was a space that was like to reinforce the validation of my father, which was okay. He was a pastor at the time growing up, and a lot of how he felt was how then we needed to interact because he was the head of the household, which I understand and in respect. But in terms of needing to change your being so that other people felt secure was a unintentional, like, toxic thing that I learned. Because then now I'm people pleasing because everybody's like my dad. You know, I need to do these things in order for you to be or to give me what I think I needed. And so I was running away to try to find solace in self. And when I met my husband, he was the first person I have ever met that had a self that stood alone. He did not care about what his parents thought. I mean, honored and respected, but he was grown enough to do whatever he'd like. And I never saw a human who was undeterred by any, he just didn't care. He was all in of himself, self-aware. And so I ran to that energy because, like, what's that? I've never seen it before in my life. I want that.
Wow.
When you ran to that energy, one more question. You ran to that energy and you all met and, you know, now you are coexisting. Did some of your childhood, the things you experienced inside your home, did you bring that into the relationship?
Of course. I brought myself. And that's,
That's it. That's the thing.
That's what I was made up of a little girl who didn't ever feel that her natural self was enough to be loved. A little girl who didn't want to deal with money because my dad had money and it made him mean. You know, a girl, or in my opinion, mean, you know, now, of course, my dad is one of the people who I like model my life out of because I study him so much. Low key was like, why am I a woman if men were in the world? Like, what happened here? Malfunction, but not enough to like actually change because I like being a woman, like, you know, just saying that. But I watched him in life. And so he would go into spaces and say, oh, can you just imagine this being there and this being there and this being there? And I'm now the manager of McPhail Studios, which is one of those kind of ideas. He said, hey, just imagine this, being that. So I brought who I was into the relationship. And honestly, for some years, couldn't really have conversations about money without getting all.
Yeah, that feeling.
I'm telling you, because what? Me, what? Like, you know, and wouldn't always, I was not the most domestic, you know, and the role that I got with was a traditional husband who would pay all the bills and would have the expectation for the house and home to be taken care of. But I was not the domestic type. Your girl was trying to be an entrepreneur. I was trying to be out in this world. I was trying to be doing things. So having to learn the curve of being responsible for those things and him having to try to communicate those things. Because he came from a home where his mom is like a housewife, home is her thing. Well, my mom was a working mom. So
completely different.
Right. So my mom was a working mom. His mom was a stay-at-home mom. And the clash of, you know, how that worked, it took some years, and it took a lot of conversations, took a lot of tears, took us going to counseling. Like, I use your resources. Like, there are things out there that if you want this end goal, you can add anything to support your success of that, you know? So I would say the mindset and awareness transformation is continuous. It is ever going. It is where we sit down and have family meetings. It is where we include our son in the conversation sometimes. It is understanding that the family we are building is made up of the people that we are now. And that we need to move from that place of understanding that, one, we were born to win, the game is rigged in our favor, so that any conversation that we have with each other is only about solutions towards our win, because it's inevitable.
Right.
So, yeah, that would be a lot of what I've had to learn.
I love that. Well, one, I was laughing with Chris a little while ago because before you came on, me and Jermail were talking, and he was like, you know, when you know somebody, but you don't know somebody.
Right.
Like, we know Jessica. Like, we know the character Jessica as she is a player and role in our lives. But you're like a sweet onion, like an onion that you cut, but it won't make you cry, but it just got a lot of layers. That's
I'm here
what
for
you're
that.
giving me, big sweet onion energy. So with that being said, we have a segment called Brothers with Feelings.
Okay.
Now, you're not a brother, obviously, but you are our sister, and you get a cool sticker. I don't think we need to vote on this
there's
one.
no
You
vote
are
at all.
all the energy and emotion and feeling in the world. So you could put that on your jacket, wear that proudly, you know what I'm saying? And with that, you get 2 minutes to say whatever it is that you want to discuss about being a sister with feelings on the self-control mindset. But you got to put the stick on.
Okay, I wanted to put it on something that will last longer than my jacket because
wow.
I had to take
You
it
know
off.
what?
And wash
I
it.
can't even argue that.
Another sticker.
Okay,
argue
okay.
that.
Another
Another, I can
Put
get
that one
another
on your
sticker.
heart.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
We
That's
got
fine.
mad stickers.
Okay,
we
that's
got,
good.
we
Look,
winning
look.
out here.
I was just thinking I'm gonna have to take that off. Like how do I? You see, now that is in my mind. Like I'm thinking
Yeah.
8 steps ahead. Like okay, because this has to go in the
That,
washer.
that,
So
that is the
Delayed gratification.
that part is like, hey, because I want the
yeah.
sticker.
Because all the brothers slap it off and put it right directly.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. So, I would like to acknowledge the fact that men are the reason we exist. Now, women, I believe, do run the world, but men are the reason why we're safe, why we're okay, why we are in buildings, why we have running waters. Like the men infrastructure is what makes this world work. So remember that your internal infrastructure is most important. How you feel and how you relate to yourself in feeling will dictate how you move, will dictate how you relate to others, will dictate how you love. So making sure that you are okay with feeling your feelings, have a safe space to feel your feelings in or can create one. You use your resources, and that can be people who love you. That can be people who don't know you but are trained to know how to listen and how to hear and how to ask questions. That can be your work with yourself in the mirror. You are important enough to do all this and to acknowledge that the feelings that you feel have some relationship to how you live. And so if you want to change how you live, change how you feel. And in changing how you feel, everything else will change. I would also like to say, I pray for you. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so very much for this time and opportunity to come in this energy. I know this will last forever, and I pray for every ear under the sound of my voice. May you know the divine energy that dwells within. May you move with the light that begins with your own thinking. And may you know that everything you say, everything you touch, everything you do is lined with light of gold. You are the answer to any problem that you have, and the solution dwells within. So sit in your silence. I pray that they get the silence that moves them in every loud action that they do. I pray this knowing, and I pray over So Bloom, this podcast. May it touch and make waves in this earth that move it towards the place of blooming. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
That's good.
I must
You hit us
say,
with the DMX prayer. Crazy right there, Jess.
honestly, simply put, the reason why I wanted you to be our first female panelist here is there's never been a time of that, not just me, that I didn't see you interact with a black man in this world and you did not pour into them. And you, everywhere you go, you make the day brighter.
Indeed.
Simply put.
Thank you.
So I thank you for that. I'm really curious to hear what Dr. Kurt is going to say, because like I said, the way you approached your topic, I feel like is a masterclass for all of us on how we should start approaching life through a lens of optimism.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Kurt, I got one question for you.
What's up, bro?
Try to kick knowledge?
You know, I wish I could. But I'm actually going to steal it all from our wonderful, amazing guest, Jessica, right? And what's so beautiful about this masterclass, because it is, in fact, a masterclass held by you, is I decided to take some notes. First, I want to acknowledge you and the brilliance that you brought. This will go far. with all of us. You said something that really stuck with me. You said, quote, "You are important enough to pay attention to yourself," end quote. And that was a game changer. You are important. Like, you get to pay attention to yourself because you are absolutely that important. So I thank you for that, right? We talked about control earlier, right? And what I know, turning 54 recently, control is a synonym for fear,
Happy belated, sir.
right? Control is a synonym for fear, right? It's the absence of ego in that moment. But most of the time we refer to ego as something that's being detrimental in our way. Ego serves us. It reminds us of some challenges. The challenge becomes is it surfaces unnecessarily more times than not. And that's when it becomes an unhealthy version, right? We internalize our emotions and then go into this I'm in danger mode as if we are in fact in danger, but we are not. And so it has its place, right? You need your ego to walk in spaces and own it, right? To celebrate yourself. But I want to drive the point home that control is fear-based, but ego has its reputable, necessary place in all of our existence. Something else you said, Jessica, now, you are, in my opinion, the queen of distinctions, right? You sat down and said that you have this silver lining, and I absolutely get that from you. Your high ability to see things differently, thereby giving yourself, your life, and other people permission to feel differently about the very things they see is brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I could see who you get to be based on just listening to you. Another thing that stood out for me is this is how I heard you consistently and constantly reauthor your own script for life. Period. Right? I hear you like that. And I'll close with this, right? Responsibility is one's ability to respond, right? One's resilient ability to respond, having the ability to respond. I gather, and I'll close with you, right? If you give me permission to close with this, you are the personification of slowing down to speed up.
Wow.
We got tissues in case you.
Oh, I already
let
brought
those
some.
cry.
Look,
You
I already
let
brought
those
some,
drop.
because I failed at the thing to bring them up with me. So I brought them with me today.
Oh, wow, you really did?
I did, just in case. Because, hey, forward thought. I appreciate that summation of my intent. And I would like to second it by challenging the idea that control is fear. Because for me, control is faith. Complete faith in the fact that God is good. And so if I'm controlling myself and I'm controlling my mind towards the end that I want and desire, and towards the end of things being good, my control of self comes from faith in God. Because it comes in the faith that, I show up right on time. I interact with the right people. And even though I'm controlling my environment in terms of like I'm only going to certain places, not out of fear because I'm running or whatever, but as a faith that the places I do go meet with the right people, meet with the right environment. I also would think that the idea of slowing down to speed up is perfect because stillness is the slowest that anything can be. Still, which is still in motion because we're vibrating at all times, So the idea of even being in control of myself by controlling the pace in which I perceive this present moment. If I'm moving too fast, it's that. And the control in faith of I have all control of me at all time. It's not in fear that I'll lose control or fear that I'll say something wrong. It's in control in the faith that God uses me as a vessel to speak clearly and correctly to those who need it. So that would be the only thing that I would shift within how I see the control that I wanted to bring to I So Bloom.
I heard you say, I thank you for that. I heard you say, when you mentioned, you opened up with the 4 agreements and you said, you put the spin on it, right? And that's what made me think of control, right? Because to seek control, on some level, you must feel that you're out of control. And when it comes to the Most High, God, Buddha, Allah, whoever you are, you know that that's more allowing in terms of your stillness and your beingness, right? So when I think of control, thank you. When I think, because there has been times where I had to try to control, it came from a feeling predicated on not being in control. Otherwise, I wouldn't need it to be controlling. I don't need to control my behavior unless I feel on some level that it may be a possibility that I may be out of control.
Sure.
Got it.
Wow. One, every time you do this, I'm gonna say every time you see it reminds me. You ever see Elaine from Seinfeld dance? It reminds me of that. Maybe I'm that old.
No, it's
But
all right.
anyway.
It's all right. It's all right.
But seriously, Jessica, I want to thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you sincerely for. Can we get a round of applause for Jessica? Like,
Thank you. It's been such a
Love this one.
not even the first female guest or none of that. Just who you are, how you show up constantly and consistently. The world is a better place because of you.
I thank you.
The first woman guest, right?
First,
Do we say female or women?
Yeah.
I say women.
I say women, right?
Oh,
Because female is a bunch of different things, right?
That's a whole nother.
All right, well, yeah, all right.
yeah.
We don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Thank you for our
Did I go
first
too
woman
far?
guest,
Right.
our first queen.
There's other
on the-
living
on the
beings that are
episode.
female, but this is clearly a woman, right? Our producer, Tamisha, is a woman.
All right. With that being said, I would like let's land this plane softly, and I'll simply say thank you for tuning in to another episode of I So Bloom. Getting old is mandatory, but growing up is strictly optional.
Absolutely.
You get to choose with your self-control mindset. I hope you're growing. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.